Pope Leo XIV, The Forbidden History. Hey, have you ever wondered if history sometimes hides things from us on purpose? I mean, we all know that history is written by those in power. But what if someone really important, was completely erased from the official record? Here's a question: could it be that the Catholic Church once had a pope who just disappeared? A pope whose name was wiped from every book, every list, every archive. Sounds crazy, right? But let me walk you through this. So, according to the Vatican's official records, we go from Pope Leo XIII straight to Pope John Paul I. There's no gap, no missing name. Everything seems perfectly in order. But here's where things get weird. Some ancient documents, confiscated from remote monasteries, mention the name Leo XIV. Yep. Leo XIV. Not in one or two places, this name shows up in several hidden manuscripts. And guess what? They date right back to the mid-19th century. So who is this Leo XIV? And why isn't he in the official papal timeline? Even more bizarre, every attempt by historians to access the Vatican's restricted archives on this topic has been flat-out rejected. Complete stonewall. It's like this pope, if he really existed, has been carefully buried, not just physically, but in history itself. Let's break it down. Several independent researchers claim they stumbled upon scattered references to Pope Leo XIV in forbidden texts. The documents describe him as briefly taking power after Leo XIII. But his name was swiftly deleted from all official church documents. His existence was literally scrubbed from history. But why would the church go to such lengths to erase a pope? I mean, what could he possibly have done to deserve that? Some theories suggest that Leo XIV wasn't just a religious leader. He was a seeker of forbidden knowledge. Rumor has it, he explored secret doctrines and may have been linked to underground societies, the kind the church historically condemned. Imagine this, a pope who actively pursued ancient mysteries, who didn't just accept doctrine but questioned it. Who sought answers outside the walls of the Vatican. What if he found something the church wasn't ready to reveal? What if his discoveries were too dangerous? It's said that the church not only erased his name but also sealed away any documents linked to him. Entire libraries were restricted. Entire timelines were cleaned up. In fact, some of the most suspicious gaps in Vatican history coincide with the period when Leo XIV was allegedly alive. Now, let's talk about one of the strangest cases. A group of historians once tried to verify the authenticity of these mysterious manuscripts. They requested access to the Vatican's archives, citing inconsistencies in the official papal lists. The response? Complete denial. They were told that the documents did not exist. But shortly after that, several of those historians stopped their research completely, without explanation. Some even vanished from public life. Coincidence? Maybe. But what if it's not? There's another twist. Some of these ancient texts were later traced back to monasteries that were mysteriously shut down by the church in the early 20th century. The official reason? Doctrinal conflicts. But insiders suggest these monasteries might have held more than just theological disagreements, they might have protected the memory of Leo XIV. And here's something else. There's one letter, partially burned, that survived. It was supposedly written by a cardinal during that period. In the letter, he mentions the forbidden reign of Leo, whose words cannot be spoken aloud. What words? What ideas? What could have been so threatening? There are whispers that Pope Leo XIV didn't just lead in secret. He might have also written texts that predicted the future, not just the future of the church but the future of mankind. But we'll get to that later. Right now, what's important is this. If these fragments are real, if Leo XIV did exist, it means the church actively erased a living pope from history. The real question is, was he removed because he was dangerous? Or because he uncovered something they didn't want us to know? Some skeptics argue it's all a myth, just misinterpretations, forged documents, or local legends that spiraled out of control. But others, historians, conspiracy theorists, even some former clergy, believe there's something to this story. And the more the Vatican refuses to talk about it, the more suspicious it becomes. Let's not forget, the Vatican is known for guarding secrets. They have the largest private archive in the world, filled with documents that no one outside the highest circles is ever allowed to see. Is it really so impossible that something, or someone, was hidden away? If Leo XIV existed, we have to ask. What else has the Church kept from us? How many other names have been erased? How much of our history is actually incomplete? And if someone could remove a pope from the records, how far would they go to make sure we never found out? In the next part, we'll dig into the secret societies Leo XIV was allegedly connected to, groups that some say still shape the world from behind the scenes. Stay with me, because this is where the story gets even wilder. Alright, let's keep going. If Pope Leo XIV really existed, he wasn't just sitting on a golden throne inside the Vatican walls. According to multiple forbidden sources, he was actually out there, walking secret paths, stepping into forbidden places where no pope was ever supposed to go. There are rumors, persistent ones, that Leo XIV was deeply involved with secret societies, groups like the Illuminati and the Knights Templar. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Illuminati? That sounds like something straight out of a movie. But let's be clear, these groups did exist historically. And if the stories are true, Leo XIV didn't just know about them, he might have worked with them. Why would a pope, the spiritual leader of the Catholic Church, connect himself to organizations the Church had fought against for centuries? That's the big question. Some say Leo XIV believed that the Church was holding back humanity's true potential, that behind locked doors, the Vatican hid knowledge that could change the world. So he started to break the rules. He left the Vatican in secret, sometimes traveling under false identities, seeking ancient texts, relics, and spiritual knowledge that had been suppressed. What did he find? Some legends say he uncovered forbidden knowledge about the origins of life and death. He supposedly studied rituals that blurred the lines between angels and demons. He believed that what we think of as divine and what we think of as evil might not be as separate as we've been taught. One surviving fragment from a letter allegedly written by Leo XIV says, "Where they see the light, I see the shadow beside it. Where they see the devil, I see the other face of the angel." It's chilling. And it gives us a glimpse into how radically different his views might have been. If this is true, you can see why the Church would panic. A pope who didn't just question doctrine, but possibly challenged the entire foundation of good versus evil? Some researchers believe that during his secret travels, Leo XIV encountered ancient groups who protected forbidden relics, objects that were said to hold incredible spiritual or even supernatural power. These relics were thought to predate Christianity. They were linked to ancient civilizations, to forgotten gods, to forces the Church had spent centuries trying to erase from human memory. Here's where it gets even wilder. Some say Leo XIV wasn't just collecting knowledge. He was trying to merge it. To bring together what the Church called heresy with what the Church called truth. He wanted to rebuild the Church based on what he believed was a fuller picture of existence, a picture that embraced both light and shadow. But of course, that idea was far too dangerous. There are records of internal conflicts during this time, bishops and cardinals who suddenly disappeared, monasteries that were shut down with no explanation, and secret trials that were never made public. Some suspect that when Leo XIV returned from one of his journeys, he no longer fully aligned with the Church's leadership. That's when things started to fall apart. The Church, according to these theories, faced a massive choice. Either they let Leo XIV continue, and risk shattering centuries of religious structure, or they erase him. Completely. And apparently, they chose to erase him. This is where the timeline gets messy. If Leo XIV truly existed, his reign would have been short, just long enough to become dangerous, but not long enough to leave an undeniable mark on the public record. But the secret societies? Some believe they preserved his memory. There's a chilling rumor that the Illuminati, far from being the dark villains pop culture loves to paint, actually saw Leo XIV as one of their greatest allies, a spiritual leader who understood that the truth was never black and white. The Knights Templar, who had long been thought extinct, were allegedly part of this network. Some fringe historians even claim they helped smuggle certain relics out of the Vatican to keep them from being destroyed. Imagine that, hidden alliances between a pope, secret societies, and ancient guardians of forbidden knowledge. It sounds like fiction, but the more you dig, the harder it is to dismiss completely. Now, here's something else that's fascinating. After Leo XIV was supposedly removed, there was a rapid restructuring of Vatican protocols. Entire libraries were sealed. New restrictions were placed on what documents historians could access. And that's when the Vatican's secret archives, what they now call the Apostolic Archive, became even more tightly controlled. Almost as if someone needed to lock the door quickly. Some scholars argue that this sudden tightening of access wasn't random. It was a reaction to Leo XIV's discoveries, whatever they were. What could have been so dangerous? What truth was so terrifying that it needed to be buried forever? One theory is that Leo XIV's journeys led him to believe that divine power wasn't exclusive to any one religion, that sacred energy, miracles, even life after death, could be accessed through ancient practices that predated the Church by thousands of years. If he had shared this publicly, it could have collapsed the authority of the Catholic Church overnight. And maybe that's why his reign, if it happened, was cut so short. To this day, no official Vatican document mentions him. His name is absent from every papal list. It's as if he never lived. But here's the thing. Erasing someone from the records doesn't mean they didn't exist. Sometimes, it just means someone really, really wanted us to forget. In the next part, we're going to explore the strangest chapter of all, the alleged miracles surrounding Leo XIV's body, and the chilling prophecies he left behind, prophecies that might be unfolding right now. Okay, now we've reached the strangest part of this story, the part that even the bravest researchers hesitate to talk about. Let's dive into what's perhaps the most chilling mystery surrounding Pope Leo XIV, the miracles that were never officially recognized, and the prophecies that may have been deliberately buried. Here's where it gets interesting. According to whispers from suppressed documents, the body of Pope Leo XIV never decayed. Yeah, you heard that right. Some claim that after his sudden removal, his body was hidden away, not buried in a grand tomb like other popes, but sealed inside a small, unmarked chamber deep within Vatican walls. Now, if this sounds familiar, it should. The phenomenon of incorruptibility, where a body doesn't decay, is considered miraculous within Catholic tradition. It happened with saints like Bernadette Soubirous, whose perfectly preserved body has stunned scientists for decades. But here's the kicker. When Leo XIV's body was reportedly discovered decades later, completely untouched by time, Vatican officials immediately sealed the area and forbade any further examination. A team of scientists, who had been called in to verify the phenomenon, were suddenly pulled from the project. Some of their preliminary notes, according to anonymous leaks, were burned. Why would they destroy that evidence? Some people say this wasn't just about preserving the Church's reputation. It was about hiding the possibility that Leo XIV had discovered something that allowed him to bypass death itself. Let's pause here. If the stories are true, if his body really didn't decompose, that raises one of the biggest questions. Did Leo XIV unlock a secret to physical immortality? Or did something else preserve him? Some of the forbidden texts hint that Leo XIV might have been practicing ancient rituals that merged Christian symbols with pre-Christian spiritual techniques, tapping into forces the Church would later label as heretical. One surviving scrap of writing, said to be penned by Leo himself, reads, "The body is the first temple. The secret lies not in defying death, but in walking alongside it." What does that even mean? Now, let's talk about the prophecies. According to underground sources, Leo XIV left behind a series of predictions, written in strange poetic codes, that were considered too dangerous to be shared. Why? Because they didn't just predict the fall of religious institutions. They predicted the collapse of empires, the rise of hidden societies, and the eventual blending of science and spirituality. Some say these prophecies warned of a time when the barriers between faiths would dissolve, when humanity would rediscover ancient knowledge that could make traditional power structures irrelevant. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? In today's world, where science is rapidly rewriting our understanding of life, death, and even consciousness, could it be that Leo XIV saw this coming over a century ago? One particular prophecy, allegedly recovered from a partially burned manuscript, reads, "The gates will tremble when the veil is lifted. In the year of false suns, the shepherd will kneel to the forgotten flame." No one knows exactly what that means. But the phrase, "the year of false suns," has led some to connect it with modern technological advancements, like artificial intelligence and synthetic life, things that might challenge what it means to be human. Some independent historians believe that Leo XIV's banned writings were secretly passed down through underground groups, hidden in monasteries that were mysteriously shut down by the Vatican. And what's really unsettling? The exact timing of those monastery closures aligns with when the first whispers of his incorrupt body began to surface. Coincidence? Maybe. But maybe not. Let's recap. A pope erased from history. Forbidden alliances with secret societies. Mysterious journeys outside the Vatican. A body that didn't decay. Prophecies that hint at the fall of modern institutions. Whether you believe in the story or not, the sheer effort it would have taken to erase someone so completely suggests that if Pope Leo XIV did exist, his impact must have been profound and terrifying to the Church. And here's the big question. If the Vatican went to these lengths to hide him, what else are they hiding? What other stories have been sealed away, just waiting to be uncovered? Perhaps, somewhere deep within the Vatican's restricted archives, his writings still exist, locked behind doors only a handful of people will ever open. Maybe the prophecies have already been read by those in power. Maybe the future Leo XIV foresaw is unfolding right now, and we just don't know it yet. And maybe that's exactly what they want. So, what do you think? Was Pope Leo XIV real? Or just a brilliant myth, one designed to make us question how much of history is actually true? Let's open this up for discussion. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Leo XIV's story is possible? Could a pope have been completely erased from the timeline? And what about those prophecies? Do you think we're living in the time he warned us about? Don't forget to subscribe if you love diving into these kinds of hidden histories and forbidden mysteries. Because this is just the beginning. There are more secrets. There are more stories. And we're going to find them.